It's like, you can't die. I mean, he couldn't believe it, you know? And Kirk is leaning over her, and he looks up at Spock and says, "What happened?" And Spock says, "She loved you, Captain. And you too, Mr. Flint. As a mentor, even as a father. There wasn't enough time for her to adapt to the enormous power and contradictions of her new emotions. The joys of love made her human, and the agonies of love destroyed her." And then the last scene, oh my gosh. They're in Kirk's quarters, and Kirk is just sitting there at his table, staring at the surface of the desk. And Spock walks in and says, "The epidemic is reduced. The Enterprise is on course for Starbase 11, as you ordered." And Kirk is not even looking at him. Kirk is just, I mean, it was so powerful. It was one of my favorite performances Shatner ever did. He's just sitting like this and staring at the desk. And Spock finishes talking, and Kirk says, "A very old and lonely man, and a young and lonely man. We put on a pretty poor show, didn't we?" And he lays his head down on the desk and says, "If only I could forget." And McCoy walks in and says, "Ah, sleeping at last, finally." And he looks at Spock and he says, "You know, Spock, I feel sorrier for you than I do for him, because you'll never know the things love can drive a man to. The glorious victories, the glorious failures, the desperate chances, all of these things you'll never know, simply because the word love isn't written into your book." And he starts to walk toward the elevator, and he turns around and he says, "I do wish you could forget her." And he leaves, and Spock is left standing there over Kirk sleeping. And he leans down over Kirk and puts his hands on his head and says, "Forget." And that's the end of the episode. Oh my God! It's the best episode ever. And you're like, "Thanks so much for wasting the whole panel." I'm sorry. Yes! How many of you guys, these guys are awesome members of the Reasonable Rangers right here. And we have business cards for the group. And I want you to have one if you are not a member. If you're not part of the coolest group ever, I want you to consider yourselves officially invited to be. And they're going to give these out. Go ahead, you have one. Where you do too? Yeah, yes you do. Gosh. Right. Excellent. You know what? Raise your hands if you want a card. They're free, and I want you to go visit and join us. Because how can we possibly dominate the whole world without more people? Okay, hold on. I mean, you guys, ready? Keep your hands raised, and they will pass out cards. Yeah, hop up, sweetheart, and pass them out. Who's got a question? Yes. I do wish you'd come to a convention so I could hold you close. Okay, please. Is there a guy with a question? Yes.
What was the weirdest autograph that you have ever signed?
The weirdest autograph I've ever signed. Wow. Well, you know what? One time I signed, somebody came up in an autograph session and they said, "I want to get a signature." And I said, "Well, sure, honey, what can I sign for you?" And she said, "Well, I can't bring it into the building." And I'm like,
Here, there you go. I have two left.
what manner of autograph is this? And she says, "It's my car." So we go out, this is what a dork I am. We walk out to the parking lot together, and she gives me this giant Sharpie. It looked like I don't know, like a rake. I mean, it was huge, it was big. And I signed the back of her car, like the back panel on the driver's side. And as I'm signing it, that's where she wanted me to sign it. And as I'm signing it, I said to her, "You know, this will probably, you might want to get it coated or something, because it'll probably wear off pretty quickly with weather." And she went, "You're right." "Would you sign the inside?" Me, being the completely dork person that I am, crawled right into her car. And she's like, would you, I said, where do you want me to sign? She said, would you sign the visor? So we put the visor down, and I'm signing it, and I'm thinking, if this chick has any sodium pentothal right now, and she grabs me and covers my mouth, I'll be gone, and I'll wake up as a male slave in Beirut or something. So that was a weird thing. That was a weird thing. Yes, sir. The weirdest moment that I've had while doing voice work? I'm trying to think what would be a weird moment. There was an embarrassing moment. And I've talked about it before, and if you've seen this on YouTube, I apologize, but the answer is always the answer, you know? I can't change the story. I was recording Full Metal, I think, and I was looking over the script, and I was reading this line, and it was this very emotional line. So I was practicing it in my head, and we got ready to record, and I'm like, this very powerful, intense, emotional moment, and I was totally getting into the moment. And then I said to the director, okay, I'm ready. And they rolled it, boop, boop, boop. And I did my line as emotionally as I could. And the director's like, wow, Vic, that was amazing. Only one thing. That's not your line. I was like, oh, what? I had looked at the wrong line. I was like, somebody else's line completely. And I was so embarrassed and bummed out because because I totally... Okay, you know what? Hold on. We got some business to take care of, you know what I'm saying? It involves this little thing right here. Alright, let me tell you what you're about to see. Shortly after we started, this is for the people that came in today and weren't here last night. Shortly after we started Full Metal recording, I just really got excited about this show. I'd done a lot of shows, but I'd never really, I don't know, there was something special about this show. And everyone in the cast felt it. And so, I decided to make a little fan film.
That's awesome.
No voice actor that I know had ever done this before. I don't know any voice actors that ever dressed up as their characters and paraded around the screen. You know what you're thinking? The first thing you're probably thinking is, well, you're way too tall to be playing Edward Elric.
No, it is formative.
And you'd be right. But through the magic of the story, I came up with this little premise under which a grown guy could start turning into an anime character. And then I thought, you know what? I should ask some of the other voice actors if they would be interested in doing this, being in this. So I asked some of the other voice actors, and they said, oh yeah, we'd love to do that. So, on one weekend in February, many years ago, we all got together with a whole bunch of, by the way, with a whole bunch of Risen Bull Rangers that were living in Houston and Austin, came together to play all the other extras and stuff in the scenes. And we made what I call Full Metal Fantasy. I started showing it at conventions. That was the only place I showed it. You couldn't see it online. You couldn't see it on YouTube. You couldn't buy it. The only way to see it was at a convention that I was at. And I showed it for about a year. And then Funimation, because of some concerns about maybe the Japanese who own the license to Full Metal getting upset that I made some live-action Full Metal thing, even though we weren't charging money for it, even though it was really just a fan film, they asked me to hold off on it. They asked me, would you table it for a while? We don't want to make anybody mad in Japan. We don't want to hinder our relations with these companies. So I did that. I put it away for about 2 years. And last year, just at the end of last year, I was contacted by a very good friend at Funimation, and she said, I have a surprise for you, Vic. And I said, what's that? She said, I have gotten you permission to start showing Full Metal Fantasy again. Sweet. And I was like, sweet. And so we started in Alaska, and then I've been sharing it at conventions ever since. So, here's the only stipulation. All the video cameras that I see in the room right now, please put them away. Do not shoot this video for me, okay? Will you please respect